Hi there and welcome to another IronWorks Brewing video. In this video we're back to the Viognier and we're on steps 2 and 3. Step 2 is degassing and step 3 is clearing. So we'll get started on that in a second. I've got my fermenter, my secondary fermenter all being cleaned and sanitized. That's just going through its process at this moment in time. We'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so this was primary fermentation. It was on the 21st of the 10th. It's normally 14 days, and then you would start to do the second stage. I've had a week off, so not had a chance to do that. However, it's still got under a nice little bit of pressure in there, so this has been perfectly fine sat in here. I've turned off all the heat belts and everything, so it's just been sat. Literally waiting for this next stage. So the next stages that we need to do, we've obviously got some elements that we need to add in, which I'll go through in a second. We'll go back to the instructions. So day 14 or step 2 is stabilising or degassing. So we need to do another quick hydrometer reading just to see where we're at, and we should be below 1, so 0.996. Now we had really vigorous activity on the airlock throughout pretty much the whole 14 days. It just happened that on the I think it was the 14th or the 15th day I was going on holiday, so I didn't get a chance to actually do this step. But we're here now, and like I say, it's all been nice and safely tucked up in here, and it's still got that nice little bit of pressure over the top. So first job is we will do a quick gravity check. So we can now take out the airlock, chuck that in the bucket for cleaning. And we've got the nice and bright colour. It's very cloudy, but that's obviously what clearing does next. So we've got that there. See whether I need to drop any out. Boom. I don't know if you can see that, but the hydrometer's dropped literally straight through. Now this is a combined wine and beer hydrometer, so it gives you that extra levels, and we are bang on 0.996, which is absolutely bang on what it recommends. So that's perfect. You can see that in there. It's probably a little bit too close, but that's absolutely where we need to be. So as for instructions for the next stage, we've got the specific gravity reading. I will make a note of that. We are at 0.996. Today we are on the 25th of November, and using sanitized equipment, and this is, I always stress this, but it's very important. Sanitize. Cleaning and sanitization when you're in that fermentation stage is very important, especially when you're taking it out of what you cleaned, you sanitized, you protected it. It's been sat there, it's been sat with the CO2 over the top, so it's got nice protection, and then you need to be transferring it. You've got the hoses going through, you've got a paddle to really work the next bit, because the degassing gets rid of obviously any air or CO2 that's in there, because you don't want any gas in this, because obviously it's not carbonated. And there's obviously some chemicals that help with that, sulfites and sorbate, and this Kieselol. So they're what are going in next. And then tomorrow, which you'll see this video in one, but tomorrow, which is step 3, which is the clearing side of it, then you add the chitosan, which again helps to drop out all the particles that are actually held in the wine, and then you're into clearing stage then, day 15 onwards. And the longer you leave that, obviously the better it'll be. It does recommend sort of a 4-week wine kit. You know, you start be racking that off another 26 days, so it's not a quick process this, but certainly interesting. Okay, so this next step then, which is step 2 on the process of 5 stages all the way through, or 5 steps all the way through. We've checked our specific gravity. We bang on the numbers as it would recommend and suggesting. We've got our SAN equipment for our secondary fermenter, which I'll show you in a second. That's currently going through a cleaning and sanitisation process. Warm water, I'm using VWP dual cleaner and also sanitizer. We're then going to rack this off, so we're going to connect a hose which is also being sanitised. We're going to clean, let's put some Chem-San in there, make sure everything's sterile, and then we're going to transfer the liquid, the wine, out of here into the secondary fermenter in readiness. At that point we're going to add the sulfite into the secondary fermenter with the wine, and we're going to start agitating it. It recommends for about 10 minutes, reversing direction every 30 seconds or so, and this is basically just to knock out any sort of I guess trapped CO2. Looking at that, what's in the hydrometer vessel, actually degassing probably won't take that long, but we will give it the full 10 minutes as per recommendation. And then once we've done that, after the 10-minute process, we'll be then starring in the Kieselol. I'm going to have to work out how to actually pronounce that, but I will stick it up on the screen. And then if you've got other packages that it recommends at this stage, you might be adding those, but for this particular wine kit it's basically the sulfite first, give it a good whack through for 10 minutes to get rid of all the gas, and then we're adding in the Kieselol. And then we fit the airlock and then leave it for 24 hours, and then we'll come back to it. Right, so while we're waiting for the secondary fermenter to do its stuff in terms of cleaning, what we've got probably another 5 minutes or so for that to have done its business, and then we'll give it a good thorough rinse. We'll start to take off the heat pad and get things, I've got some Star Sand, Chem-San, Star Sand actually, measured up in my bottle, so I'll give everything a good clean round here. I'm going to leave the bung in for now, and just deconstruct all the heat belt and stuff like that, so we're good to go. Right, great stuff. So we've got the Star San here. We'll just give that another final squidge, and we've got our hose. Oh, we're going to start to do the transfer. I've got my paddle and my scissors. They've been cleaned, sanitized. They're in just a bucket of warm water. The hose has now the warm water's got some Chem-San in just to keep everything nice and clean. Like I've mentioned before, making sure everything that touches sort of your packets, that kind of stuff, I always tend to just spray a bit of Chem-San on, and then the scissors and everything, so anything that's touching now needs to be absolutely spotless and sanitized. So we'll get that on there, and we'll start to transfer this over, and then I'll come back to you and show you what's just off screen down here. So we're now starting to do the transfer. I'll just flip you off here a second. It's a lovely golden colour. And quite clear already. The smell of it smells nice, smells winey, certainly. Okay, so we'll let that do its transfer over. Okay, well, that's just coming up to finishing its transfer from the primary fermenter. I've lifted the tube out so that we obviously starting to degas it at the same time. But now we need to just flip back over and just let it do its final bit. Leave the detritus, as you can see, it's slightly above the level, so there'll be an element of well, I might just tip that forward. I don't know how level this bench is, to be honest, but I'll tip that forward a little bit and just get any final residue out of there. But I don't want to be taking any of the detritus from the bottom, the trub from the bottom at all. It just makes it more difficult. But actually, from a clarity point of view, that's looking pretty good already. Some might say that looks like a hospital specimen. But it certainly doesn't smell like one, so which is always a bonus. Okay, so that's that done. I'll show you inside there in a second. Put that in there ready for cleaning. Okay, I'll just shift the camera position and we'll get cracking in terms of agitating the wine. So sulfite sorbate is the first thing to go in, and then we're actually doing the vigorous, so that's the stuff, the vigorous agitation, mixing it all in, but obviously getting as much of the carbon dioxide, the gases that are in there. One of the things I did do years ago, I made the mistake of not doing this process thorough enough, and what you'll find is that once you've bottled it or you put it into the wine bags or whatever, however you're going to do it, actually you can get to a point where it'll explode. So it's it can be quite messy. Unfortunately, it was in a shed, so it didn't really matter. But I've learnt my lesson, and I won't do that again. So this is the next process, and we'll come on to that in a second. Okie dokes, so we've got our cleaned and sanitised. We'll just work a bit of sanitizer on there as well. As you can see, the work surface, the scissors have been in the hot water, so that's now pretty much ready to go. We'll get this cut off there. All of that in. That's good. Into the bin. Now you can apparently get drill attachments to do this, which is probably something worth investing in if you do wine kits on a regular basis. I don't, probably do them once or twice a year, so I guess a bit like the paint stirrers, to be honest. And to be honest, you could probably modify this to go in a chuck, so that it's, you know, less strain on the arm. We're not doing too bad. Got a few minutes yet, but okay. So we've got just under a minute left. One of the things I was just thinking about there is actually these fermenting buckets. I've had these a good number of years now. They've served me well. Done beers and all sorts of stuff, ciders. They are, I think they're 30 litres. So actually just thinking in terms of getting the agitation going and all of that kind of stuff. You know, you've got plenty of headroom. It does splash a little bit, but it's not too bad. It does recommend agitating one way, really getting sort of right into the bottom and moving it all around, and then sort of stopping and going the other way. Seems to be working all right. There's Alexa telling me that we've done. Time has finished, so that's just 10 minutes. Alexa, stop. Okay. So we'll just shift camera positions and look at the instructions for the next stage, and I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so Kaisel Sol, let's give that another quick clean. Sanitize, just whip the corner off, and then we tip this straight in there. Doesn't say anything about stirring it in, but being as my paddle's in there, I will just give it a stir. I wonder whether that's similar to Browsol in terms of a fining agent to drop out all the final bits for the clearing. Stick that in the bucket. And now we are getting ready to put the lid on. Just give myself a little bit of space. I've already cleaned and sanitised this, but it never helps. Actually, it never hurts, rather, to keep everything as clean as possible. Fantastic. So I'm just going to have a clean down and just shift it back up there. Just have a bit of a clean down. It'll go back into that position. It's going to stay there for 24 hours, and then we're into clearing stage. So we've just got another component to add, which is this chitosan, if you can see that. And I'm assuming that must also be part and parcel of the finings and clearing part of it. We've done the clearing, we've done that bit. So yeah, so we're pretty much ready now for, that's that one stage done. So that's stabilising and degassing, and like I said, we'll be back in a second by the power of YouTube to do the clearing section, and then we are pretty much ready for leaving it then for a few weeks for polishing, getting ready for polishing and racking. So probably another 10, 15, 20 days, but I'll read the instructions and we'll come back on that tomorrow. So we've lifted up, we've got the lid done, we've got the got some Chemsan in the airlock. We've cleaned and sanitised the bung, which we'll stick in there now, and get the airlock in there like that, with the lid on. That's just to keep out any of the nasties, and we've done pretty much everything that we need to. We don't put any temperature on this at this stage. That's the next stage. So in 24 hours we'll be doing the clearing stage. That's when, like I said, this goes in, and then any sort of other sort of flavourings. Some of them come with oak chips and stuff like that to actually give the style of the wine. We're going to put this then. Tomorrow we'll be having this in a sort of 2025, so the heat belt will come back out. Can't do that in my garage, but the heat belt will come out and get that to be, again, about 21 degrees, which is what I've done the primary fermentation on, and we'll see where we get to from that one. So I'll catch you in a sec. One thing we didn't show you, we'll have a look in here. Just started to get that off. See, all the detritus in the bottom. We'll give that now a good clean and a sanitize, and then that'll be ready for next use. Right, welcome back. We're 24 hours on now, and we're at step 3. So step 3, just get the old gigs on, you can see what we're doing. So step 3, we've done the stabilising and degassing, that was yesterday. We're now at step 3, which is clearing, and we're in obviously our secondary fermenter, and now we're going to stir in the carbonation. I've been googling what all of these things do, so I'll put a little bit of an infographic up in terms of what they're all for. But essentially the preservatives and obviously finings, and some work on positive charges and some work on negative charges. So interesting to see. This one works on positive charges from memory. So we've got carbonation, this is going in next, and then we need to be adding the heat belt back on. Because at this stage we've now got probably another 15 days or so, and this will be at temperature now, and it's between 20 and 25 degrees away from direct heat and light. So I will be putting my heat belt back on here and getting the temperature up. Like I said before, this is in my garage, so it can get quite cool in here, but actually the heat belt works really well, and the fermentation was great. So first step I'm gonna do is, like always, is sanitize packets. That's that one, and then scissors that we are using to cut packets. Very important. Like I've said many times before, whenever you're doing anything on fermentation stage, you're at that point now where you don't want to be introducing nasties into the mix. So we'll take this off. We will give this a bit of a clean as well, and a bit of a top up with that. Smells marvellous. And I'm going to attempt to put that in through the hole. So if I make a small cut on there, and then very carefully pour that into here, so I'm not going to take the whole lid off. Now, it doesn't say anything about stirring, like it didn't, to be fair, when we were adding the Kaisersol either. Again, I've learned how to say that word. Power of Google and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much good to go. We don't do anything in terms of stirring. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So replace the airlock, and we're going to fit the heat belt. Just take that off there. We'll just add a bit round like that. That's on the top. Pretty much good to go. So I will get the heat belt now set up, and that's pretty much it for this video. I've classed this as part 2, but on the actual steps for each of the stages, there's 5 stages for this wine. We've now done 1, we've done 2, and we've done 3. And just to run through those, number 1 was the primary fermentation, getting everything ready. Number 2 was at day 14. Mine was slightly after that, but that was about stabilising and degassing. So that's where we added the sulfite sorbate package. Apparently that's what actually stops the yeast, and also stops the yeast from fermenting any further, and we also added the Kaisersol as well. And like I said, I'll put a bit of a graphic up in terms of what each one of these additions do to home winemaking process. And then once we've done the clearing bit, we're keeping an eye on it. So we're at a 4-week wine kit, and we're looking at probably polishing racking day on day 26. So we've got another few weeks to go yet, and then bottling day on day 28. Like I said, I'm not going to bottle, I'm going to use pouches. I think pouches work really well. I think I'm trying to get some 2 litre or 3 litre. At the minute I can only find 5, but if that's what we need to do, that's what I'll do. and we'll come back to you on that one. So if you like this kind of video, please do like and subscribe. It does mean a lot, and thank you to everybody that already has. Much appreciated, and we'll catch you on the next one.